Hello and welcome to the Ellenmade Book Club. Today we're talking about Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. Since this is a book club discussion video, it may contain spoilers. I'm kind of assuming that you have read the book already, and I would recommend that you read the book before you watch this video. You're welcome to keep watching if you want to, but just be warned that, there may be some spoilers in this video. If you want the short version of my thoughts on this book, I did review it in my October wrap-up video, so you can go and watch that. In this video, I'm going to be answering, I think there are 6 questions from you guys that I have had on my community tab, where I ask for the questions. So if you want to take part in the discussion in the future, you can pay attention to the community tab and ask your questions about any book on there. So let's just get into the first question, which is always the same one at this point. The first question is from Emily at the Linguist's Library. What made you gravitate toward this particular book? So in this case, I would say the hype around the book and also the cover. I heard a lot of people talking about it and saying it was a beautiful story, a lovely book, a bit of a feel-good story, which I don't read a lot of, and I'm always a bit skeptical of because the typical feel-good stories that are called that don't always make me feel good. I find them a bit like too sweet sometimes, or a bit surface level, and like not having that much substance to them. And so, that's why I'm always a bit skeptical, but I have been reading a lot of heavy books this year and some stories that haven't made me feel very good, so I figured it's worth a try. I also think it's good to read popular books every once in a while to get some kind of a reference point so that I can compare my taste to someone else's, because it's a lot easier when you've read the same book to see like how you are in alignment and how you are not. And it helps me to develop a sense and understanding for my own taste and just learning more about what I like and what I don't like. And so, that's why I chose to read this book. It was also the book that got the most votes in the poll for which book to read for book club, but those are the reasons why it was even on there in the first place. The next 2 questions are from Helen, and the first one is, Marcellus was this book's USP, or unique selling point. Do you think this book would have been better or worse without the octopus character and chapters? For example, using a human in Marcellus' role. I think having Marcellus be an octopus was a very good choice, and I appreciated that it was just something different. I also think it's a good way to lure people in, because it's not really what the story is about, but if it said in the premise what the story is about, then there would be no element of surprise or discovery. The fact that he can't speak to the other characters in the book, but that we as readers know his thoughts, is a good way of letting us as readers in on the secret before the other characters realize it. And I think that would be more difficult to accomplish with a human character. It would have to be someone who can't communicate in any way, someone who can't speak or write or have some kind of aid for them to communicate, but still be present at all times. And so it could work, but I think that it would be more difficult and not as funny and lighthearted, because Marcellus adds a sense of humor to the story, and so I think that would be a very different vibe if it had been a human. It could maybe have been a baby or something, but I think it works very well with Marcellus being an octopus. He's also observing human behavior from an outside point of view, so that would also be difficult, I think, to do with another human character, because it would sound either very arrogant or kind of dumb. And so I think that we forgive him for saying certain things because he's an octopus, and some things are just it's just funnier when he's an octopus. And then there's also the added bonus of making us think about encaged animals and whether they have a consciousness and feelings, and how they, if they do, feel about being in a cage for our entertainment. And I think that it's a very good way to sneak that into a story because it doesn't come off as a preachy book or being about animals being in a cage, but that's an element of the story that we sort of get on top of everything else. And so, yeah, I think it's all good things. The next question from Helen is, how predictable did you find the story? If you found it predictable, did it matter? I wasn't sure what to expect from the story going into it, so in that sense, it was all news to me that there even was a plot of any kind. So in that way, it wasn't predictable at all. And then as the story went on, I think the secret was revealed at a good pace. I felt like I was in on things before some of the characters were in on them, and so I discovered it gradually, and I could piece together things before they were said, but I don't think that I pieced together more than I should have, if that makes sense. I didn't figure out everything too soon. And I guess that leads us into the next question from Chelsea at Libraries and Lattes. At what point, if at all, did you figure out the mystery in this story? How did you feel when you figured it out? I can't remember the exact point when I realized things, but like I said, it was a gradual realization for me. So at first I realized that they must have some kind of connection, but I wasn't sure exactly how. And then as more details were revealed, I figured it had to be the way that it was. So how I felt about it, I guess, was at first when I was trying to figure it out, I was a bit puzzled and just trying to figure out what the solution was or how things were connected. And the more I came to the realization of how it was, I was, having that sense of frustration mixed with hope and wanting the characters to say the right things and ask the right questions and figure it out already. I was just hoping for them to make the connections themselves, because of course they would both benefit from that. So it warmed my heart, and I was just cheering them on and hoping that they would find each other. I think everything fell into place in a very beautiful way, and I think that they both had gone through enough hardship so that I was rooting for them both, and I was happy when they finally found each other. The next question from Chelsea is, what did you think about Cameron as a character and his progression as a person? I thought he had nuance. He was a bit of a man-child, spoiled and sort of immature, but he was also kind-hearted and empathetic, helpful, and wanting to be a good person and maybe just not knowing how. And I thought it made sense for him to be that way. He had gone through enough hard things in his life to be empathetic. I think that he could have gone either way. He could have been a very bitter person and ended up in more trouble than he did, but he was more on the end of just having been spoiled by I think it's his aunt. She has been coddling him, and so it makes sense for certain skills to be a bit underdeveloped, and he's not as independent as he could have been with a better childhood. He did read younger to me than he actually was, but it also felt believable to me because a lot of people are immature and not very independent, and so it made sense to me. It's not very attractive, but we all go through different stages in our lives and learn things at different times, so I didn't really blame him for that. I saw someone say in a review that they didn't like the book because of how immature Cameron was, and that I'm not sure if they even finished the book. They was just I can't stand this character. And I find it hard to feel that way. And I've definitely had books where I don't empathize with the character, and so then I don't enjoy the book very much, and so I get that. But I also find it hard to have no empathy for Cameron because of what he's been through, and we're told that pretty early on. So I don't know. I think he did learn things along the way, and he did learn to take a bit more responsibility, and maybe was confronted with how little he knew about things. Yeah, that he just had to learn how to fend for himself a bit more. And I think that's a natural process that everybody has to go through at some point. And some people maybe go through that at age 12, which is way too soon. And some people go through it later in life. And I don't know, it's just a matter of timing, I think, and circumstances. And I think his heart was in the right place all along. He just needed some guidance on how to be a bit more responsible of a human being and grow up a little bit. But yeah, I didn't really have a problem with him other than he was a bit immature. And then the last question is one that I had from Helen and also from Reney at Beyond Books. And that is, who was your favorite character and why? I think I would say Tova and Eddie. I liked Marcellus too, but I think there wasn't enough of him to make me connect with him as much. He was kind of the reader in the book. It felt more like he was standing next to me as a reader and looking in on the story, because he had that kind of outside commentary, and like he couldn't really engage with the other characters, just like I as a reader I couldn't tell them anything either, and he also couldn't tell them things. I mean, he did, but yeah, I guess I felt like he was in my head more than a separate character, if that makes sense. And he has his own story as well, and his own like hopes and dreams, so he is a character in the book, but I think I connected more with Tova because I could relate to her situation, and not that I have gone through her exact story, but I can relate to her grief, and I can relate to her sort of not always wanting to be in the social situations that she finds herself in, but then also appreciating the social situations sometimes, but like just in certain ways. And so, yeah, I could relate to her more, I think. And also she had Swedish heritage, so that was just an extra connection, I guess. And I also found these she talks about her Swedish things and her ancestors coming from Sweden with this like chest of things, and they had these Dala horses, and I just found some, so I just figured I would show you what they look like. These are very typical of a certain region in the middle of Sweden, and yeah, just a little fun thing that I thought I could show you, in case you wondered what they were and what they look like. There are lots of different variations with different designs on them, but those are, I guess, the more classic kind. And I liked Eddie because he was a nice person. He seemed very open-minded and helpful, and he tried his best and wanted the best for everyone around him. And I also think that he saw the good in people around him, and I really appreciated that as well. So those were all of the questions, and I would love to hear your answers in the comments. Who was your favorite character? What did you think about the mystery and about Marcellus being an octopus? I'll put all of the questions in a pinned comment, and so you can answer whichever ones you want. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.